It was a year ago that we were on the cusp of a brand new console generation. And as with every console generation that preceded it, expectations and hype were both high in equal measure. Yet here we stand with a year's worth of pure data to analyze and finally answer the question, which system should you buy? Which company is better to pledge your allegiance to now that we have 12 months of hard data, facts, sales, and games to go based on? Well, the answer is a little bit different than what you'd think. First, if you're new here, I want to welcome you to Dead Metal Media. I am your host, Dead Metal, one of the only remaining truthful and objective fact givers here on this platform. I am not paid off. This video is not sponsored by any individual, any company, any entity, or anybody or anything at all. I bring the truth. I give it to you the way I see it. You may like it, you may not like it. That's just how we operate here. But I don't like to make my people wait. Let's go ahead and get into the topic of the video, folks. Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, 12 months. Where do we stand? Well, let's start by identifying what practices each company has employed over the last 12 months to try to convince you, the viewer, that their company is worth giving $500 to. Now, couple of notes here. If you own both the systems, you're not really the target of this video. This video is specifically for the folks who are having trouble making the determination on which one to purchase. Secondly, and more importantly, there will be no fanboy bias here. I like both the systems. I own both the systems. I can give you an objective take on not just the systems themselves and their capability, but the company's mindset. I'm a video game journalist with more than 40 years in the industry. So with that being said, let's get to it. And we're going to start with the underdog, Microsoft, coming off that absolutely abysmal, piss poor representation of a gaming console they had with the Xbox One, followed up by that colossal flop of a powerhouse called the Xbox One X, which, yeah, was the most powerful system, but I mean, nobody bought it. Anyway, moving along, Xbox Series X, the most powerful console known to man. This thing has 12 teraflops of action. It's got better ray tracing capability. It can push more frames. It's got VRR support. Basically, this thing is a closed-off PC. Which begs two questions. First off, what kind of an idiot would you have to be to buy a walled garden machine that does the exact same thing as a PC, except it has even more limitations when you can get a PC for only a couple hundred more? Basically, what I'm trying to say is if you went out and purchased an Xbox Series X, you have an IQ lower than your goddamn shoe size. You're a fucking buffoon. You're an idiot. You need to get your mouth off Phil Spencer's dick and look at what sort of decisions you're making in life. Guaranteed, these are the same fucking clowns. The ones who bought the Xbox Series X are the same fucking idiots who keep microtransactions, skins, basically monetization post-purchase in general relevant, because these idiots will go online and they'll spew about how Xbox needs more exclusives and they'll spew about how shit the industry is, but they're the ones supporting these trash practices. Guaranteed that they buy only AAA games, not true art like the indies. But moving along, Microsoft is a catastrophic failure of a company. It's plain and it's simple. They've made bonehead decision after bonehead decision. No wonder Gates got the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? I mean, when the founder of your company leaves and he's still alive, maybe there's a problem. You note how Gates was all about Xbox back in the 360 generation? He was attending Halo launches. He introduced the OG Xbox. He pieced the fuck out of Microsoft and he hasn't been heard from since. I bet you anything Gates is packing a PS5. I bet you anything he will be rolling in his grave when he dies and sees how these fucks managed to bastardize the company that he founded even more. I'd be disgusted too. People, particularly Team Green fanboys, like to proclaim Phil Spencer as being the second coming of Jesus Christ, when really he's just the second coming of Don Matrick. This fucking clown is not doing anything different. Oh, yes, he is dead metal. He's bringing Game Pass to the mainstream, and he turned Xbox around. Bull fucking shit. Let's run down the list of travesties that Phil Spencer has stamped off on. Number one, bringing all exclusives to the PC, thereby rendering your little refrigerator, your mini fridge, completely useless from a game's perspective. Number two, this fucking moron stamped off on the fact that you can't play Xbox Series X games offline. There's an always online DRM. You know, the thing that people were outraged about back in 2013, yet he let this slip under the radar. In those reveal videos for the Xbox Series X, all the power and all the features, you note that this fucking degenerate didn't go out of his way to specify you needed a fucking internet connection to play the games online. This man, Phil Spencer, is a wolf in sheep's clothing. That face that you see plastered all over Xbox social media, that's a mask. Beneath it, the man has pale white skin, he's got rainbow-colored hair, and a red rubber nose, because all Phil Spencer is a clown. And the Xbox fanboys have their mouth permanently affixed to his dick. They look at him like a prophet. I would never associate myself with the Xbox brand based off that fucking twit's face alone. You know you can't trust him as far as you can throw him, yet the Xbox fanboys swear up and down that he is the sole savior of gaming. Now, we all know that's a joke. We know the sole savior of gaming is Todd Howard. It's a shame that he took Phil Spencer's blood money. Moving right along to Sony. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? This man just spent the last 5 minutes tearing Microsoft a new asshole. Quite frankly, I probably ended their entire career. They're probably going to fold within a few days of this video coming out because I've exposed them in a way that nobody else has. Nobody has the fucking balls to come out here and talk shit about Microsoft the way that I do, because everything I'm saying is backed up by facts. I have proof. I have evidence. I have the objective, 100% irrefutable factual evidence to back up these claims, plain and simple, folks. So PS5 is the answer. You should go out, you should rush out immediately, pay scalper prices, get a PlayStation 5 in your home, and dedicate your gaming on that. Right? Nope, you'd be wrong again if you made that assumption. PlayStation is for losers. They're for fucking clowns. PlayStation is killing the gaming industry. What with their insistence that games are suddenly worth $70? Even worse, their insistence that games that came out in the PS4 generation are somehow worth $70 just for some 4K visuals and some 60 FPS. That is the most degenerative, backwards-ass thinking I have ever heard. But, you know, under the leadership of a buffoon like Jim Ryan, a real blonde-haired prick, you know, what else do you expect? This fucking idiot's taking Sony down. The ship is sinking, and he's content to go down with it. He'll bail out at the last minute because he's got enough zeros at the end of his bank account. But running down all the other list of boneheaded decisions that Sony are responsible for this generation, how about releasing a PlayStation 4 Pro with a terabyte of storage and then letting the successor come out with, what, 825 gigs of storage? Way to regress there, Sony. And then to top it all off, you don't even allow expansion until damn near 9 months into the life cycle of your system. Who's running the show over there? It literally feels like monkeys have taken over the HQ and they're just banging their fucking fists down on keyboards, approving shit to come out months or years later. I mean, you're going to seriously, copyright strike and send cease and desist to fucking folks who want to change the color of the side plates on your system? Get over yourselves, you fucking conceited clowns. It's disgusting behavior. But dead metal, that doesn't have anything to do with the games. All right, let's talk about the games. You want to talk about games? Let's talk about games. Microsoft has no exclusives. I concede that. There's no reason to own an Xbox. Just buy a PC, and the games they have aren't that great anyway. But you want to talk hard facts here? It would actually be better to have no games. I would rather be in Microsoft's shoes than Sony's, because the games Sony has put out over the last year, Demon's Souls, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Kena, Bridge of Spirits, Deathloop, Returnal. These games are such an embarrassment to the gaming industry that they have made gamers worldwide question their own manhood. All right, their balls are shrinking, their dicks are decreasing in size. Just disgusting. Demon Souls was the biggest flop. And by the way, I beat Demon Souls when it came out. If you think that game's challenging, if you think that game's challenging, I know you're from Gen Z, because back in my day, growing up in the fucking 90s, that was a cakewalk compared to Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, even some early Mario 64 levels. It's just not hard. It's not hard like your virgin dicks, because you've never seen a pair of tits in real life. PlayStation fans are virgins for life. They're fat, balding men living in their parents' basement, realizing that their lives are amounting to absolutely nothing, and that all the people who bullied them throughout high school, they were right. At the end of the day here, folks, you can clown on Xbox, PlayStation guys, but you have just as much shit wrong with your system, even a little bit more, actually. I'll go as far as to say this. Again, the mindset here is Microsoft's system is completely worthless, and I don't want to understate that, but at least they don't attempt to change what isn't broke with regards to their controller. DualSense is the most overhyped thing I've ever experienced. It actually impedes your gameplay. You're playing Call of Duty, Black Ops, Cold War, or Metro. Having the triggers stick at different points prohibits you and restricts you from developing consistency, from getting good with the weapons. Every time you change it over, it feels different. There's different feedback. Oh, it's so cool, man. I mean, Astrobot's just the greatest game ever, man. The feedback. Oh my God, Astrobot is a fucking joke. Astrobot licks the salt off my nuts. Astrobot shouldn't even have been made, but it's a wonder that it was, because originally Sony was going to sell this for $70. It's a fact, look it up. And they realized no one was going to buy a game dedicated to PlayStation history, because nobody gives a shit about PlayStation. Their time's come and gone. If this would have came out back in PlayStation 2, it would have been the greatest game ever made. It would have sold millions of copies. And now, if you attempted to sell people Astrobot, Sony would go bankrupt. Printing the discs would bankrupt them. Placing it on the storage space for the PlayStation Store would bankrupt them. It's a fucking joke. Astrobot, well, it just celebrates the history of PlayStation. There's nothing to celebrate. PlayStation's ruining gaming. $70 upgrades. $70 for new versions of old games. You're shitting yourself if you think a Last of Us 2 director's cut isn't coming. That's all they're content to do. Where's the exclusives? They lied to their consumer base. They believe in generations, more like they believe in hypocrisy. They believe in false advertising, more like Jim Ryan is a false prophet. This man is going to sink PlayStation. I'm convinced that that's his goal. He's a sleeper agent sent by Microsoft to destroy the competition. If that's his endgame, he's doing a hell of a job. But he's ruining gaming in the process for the rest of us. So where does that leave us? Xbox, complete dog shit, irrelevant console that has no reason to exist. PlayStation 5 is a complete disaster on every front, with a shoddy controller, games that are overpriced and don't live up to the hype, and a clown in a leadership position who needs somebody else to tie his shoes. Where does that leave us? Well, folks, the video game system that you need to be purchasing in 2021 is not a PlayStation 5, and it's not an Xbox Series X. What you need to be purchasing in 2021 is a Nintendo Switch. Nintendo consistently kills it. They do hook, line, and sinker. They deliver the fucking games. You never feel like you're being baited or lied to. The N64 expansion pack for the NSO service, for instance, is the greatest thing I have ever seen since sliced bread. It gives me the games that I want. I can play multiplayer when I want on Mario 64. Imagine going back 20 years, 30 years, telling yourself you could play Mario Kart 64 online with friends. Man, it's just unheard of. They're revolutionizing the gaming space, and I will continue to put down $60, not $70, for every Nintendo exclusive that comes out, because the games swing. Oh, and don't even forget the indie love. The Switch has so many perfect indie games. The Switch is perfect. It is the greatest gaming system I've ever played. I would, if the Switch were a life-size man, even though I'm a heterosexual, I would satisfy it in 30 seconds or less. Nintendo Switch is what you need to be buying in 2021, folks. Fuck Xbox, fuck PlayStation, fuck PC too. That deserves its own video. Nintendo Switch is the only place to be playing your video games in 2021.